family dinner turned into chaos when my cousins' over inheritance came to light in front of everyone. So this happened about 2 months ago, but I still can't stop replaying it in my head. For context, my cousin Ryan, 37M, and I grew up like brothers. Our families were always close to Sunday BBQs, holidays together, all of it. I trusted him more than most people in my life. But what happened that night in a restaurant made me realise just how deep betrayal can cut. It was supposed to be a celebratory dinner. My Aunt Linda, Ryan's mom, had invited a bunch of us to this cozy Italian restaurant downtown. The place was small, candlelit, with old wine bottles stacked in wooden racks against the wall. You could smell garlic and basil the second you walked in. There were about 12 of us at the table. Me, my mom, my sister Emily, Aunt Linda, Ryan, his wife Claire, and a handful of other relatives. At first, everything was normal, wine flowing, laughter, clinking silverware. But I noticed Ryan kept avoiding eye contact with me. He's usually the loud one at family dinners, but that night he was quieter, almost tense. About halfway through the meal, Aunt Linda raised her glass and said, "I'm just so grateful we can all be together. Family is everything, and I know your uncle would be proud." The mention of Uncle James hit me hard. He passed away last year, and his estate was complicated, to put it mildly. He had no kids of his own, so the inheritance was meant to be split among my mom, Aunt Linda, and their kids. For months, there had been whispers about missing funds and delays in the will being executed, but nobody really confronted it directly. That's when Emily, my sister, leaned toward me and whispered, "You know Ryan got the house money, right?" Mom told me. I froze. "What do you mean? That house was supposed to be sold and split?" Emily shrugged, lowering her voice. Apparently Ryan handled it, but I don't think anyone else saw a dime. My stomach dropped. I felt this wave of heat crawl up my neck. I excused myself to the bathroom just to collect my thoughts. But when I came back, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I sat down across from Ryan and said quietly but firm, "Hey, can we talk about Uncle James' house? Emily said you already got money from it." The whole table went silent. Even the waiter froze mid-step. Ryan's face turned pale, then flushed red. He stammered, "Aya, it's not what you think." Aunt Linda jumped in immediately. "This is not the time or place." But I wasn't backing down. "No, actually, it is the place, because if Ryan stole from all of us, I think we deserve to hear it." And that was the spark that lit the fire. Ryan slammed his fork down. Claire put her hand on his arm trying to calm him, but his eyes darted around like a trapped animal. He muttered, "You don't know the whole story." I shot back. "Then tell us." The room was dead quiet, everyone waiting. That's when Ryan finally admitted something none of us were prepared to hear. Ryan leaned back in his chair, jaw clenched, eyes darting between me, Aunt Linda, and the rest of the table. The restaurant noise seemed to fade out. All I could hear was my own pulse hammering in my ears. Finally, he sighed and said, "Yeah, I took the money, but you don't get it. Uncle James wanted me to have it. He told me before he passed." The table erupted in overlapping voices. My mom gasped, Emily muttered, "Unbelievable," and Aunt Linda hissed, "Ryan, stop talking." I couldn't louder. "Are you serious? That house was supposed to be sold, split evenly. You went behind everyone's back." Ryan slammed his hand down on the table so hard the wine glasses rattled. "I did what I had to do. James knew I was drowning in debt. He wanted me to use the house money to get back on my feet. He said family should look after family." "That's bullshit, and you know it," Asterisk snapped. "Uncle James loved all of us. He would never have wanted you to screw over your own cousins." At that point, the waiter awkwardly set down a tray of pasta and muttered, "Buon appetito," before scurrying away like his life depended on it. My mom leaned forward, voice shaking. "Ryan, we trusted you. You said you were just helping with the paperwork. You never mentioned taking to pay it." Ryan rubbed his face and muttered, "It wasn't supposed to go down like this." Claire, his wife, finally spoke up. Her voice was sharp. "He didn't steal anything. Your uncle wanted Ryan to handle things. The rest of you never lift a finger when it comes to family responsibilities. Ryan always gets stuck cleaning up the mess." That set Emily off. She snapped, "Cleaning up the mess? He cashed out a $200,000 property and left us with nothing. That's not responsibility. That's theft." Claire's chair screeched as she stood up, glaring at Emily. "Don't you dare call my husband a thief." I stood too, because by then my hands were shaking and I couldn't sit still. "If it looks like theft and smells like theft, guess what? It's theft." Ryan's face twisted with rage. He spat out, "You don't know the pressure I was under. Do you know what it's like to have collectors calling every day to wonder if you're going to lose your house?" Uncle James understood. "You all think you're entitled to his money just because you share some blood." The words "entitled to his money" made something inside me snap. My voice cracked when I said, "No, Ryan, we're entitled to it because it was our inheritance, not just yours." By then the other tables were staring. Aunt Linda was begging everyone to lower their voices, waving her hands like she could fan down the flames. But it was too late and this wasn't going back in the box. Ryan finally stood up, towering over the table. His chair tipped backward and hit the floor with a crash. He looked directly at me, eyes burning, and said, "If you want the money, take me to court, but don't you dare pretend you care about James more than I did." And with that, he stormed out of the restaurant, Claire running after him. The silence he left behind was heavier than anything I've ever felt. The second Ryan stormed out, the whole restaurant seemed to exhale. You could hear forks scraping plates again, murmurs picking back up at other tables, but at ours. Dead silence. No one touched their food. My Aunt Linda had her face in her hands. She looked 10 years older in that moment. My mom whispered, "I can't believe this," but I could tell she wasn't just shocked, she was hurt. Finally, Emily broke the silence, so he admits it. He straight up admits he stole everything. Aunt Linda snapped, her head up, her eyes wet but furious. "Don't call it stealing. Ryan's not a thief." That made me laugh bitterly. "Then what do you call it? He lied to all of us, took the inheritance, and only came clean because I cornered him." Linda's voice cracked. "He was desperate. He had debts. You don't know the kind of pressure he's been under." My mom cut in, voice steadier now. "Linda, with all due respect, we've all had pressure. We all lost James. We all had hopes for that inheritance, not just for ourselves, but for our kids, for stability. Ryan made that choice for everyone, and he did it in secret. That's betrayal." Linda flinched at the word. Betrayal. It hung in the air like a bad smell. Emily pushed her plate away and leaned forward. "What gets me is the arrogance. Take me to court. Like he thinks he can bully us out of what's ours." I nodded. "That's exactly what he's betting on, that we'll just back down because it's family. He's hiding behind Uncle James' name, but this isn't about honouring him. It's about covering his own ass." Linda shook her head, whispering, "You don't understand," over and over like a broken record. Finally, my mom touched her arm gently. Then help us understand. Did you know Ryan already took the money? The whole table leaned in. Linda froze. Her lips trembled before she said, barely above a whisper, yes. It felt like the floor fell out from under me. My stomach dropped. Emily's jaw literally fell open. You knew? Emily almost shouted. You knew he took everything and you just let us sit here like idiots thinking the estate was tied up in paperwork. Linda started crying. I thought he'd pay it back. I thought he just needed time, he promised me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt heat rushing to my face again. So you lied to all of us, too. You kept a secret while the rest of us waited. You let us grieve James and fight over scraps while Ryan was cashing checks. Linda sobbed harder, but I didn't care. My trust in her was gone in that moment. The waiter nervously dropped off the check like he was afraid we'd throw it at him. Nobody touched it. My mom finally stood up and said, we're not letting this go. Ryan thinks it's over, but it's not. If it takes lawyers, then it takes lawyers. I looked at Linda one last time. Tell your son to lawyer up, because he just turned this family dinner into a war. And with that, we walked out into the cool night air, leaving Linda crying at the table. I thought the fight was over, but it was only just beginning. A week later, we had what my mom called a family intervention. It wasn't in a therapist's office or some neutral space, it was in my mom's living room, which somehow made it feel even heavier. The curtains were drawn, coffee cups lined the table, and you could practically taste the tension in the air. Ryan showed up late. Classic. He walked in with Claire at his side, both of them dressed like they were heading to court already. Ryan wore stiff button-up sleeves rolled just enough to show he wasn't here to play. Claire had her arms folded so tight it looked like she was holding him up with sheer willpower. My Aunt Linda followed behind them, looking like she hadn't slept in days. When Ryan sat down, he didn't look at me, Emily, or my mom. He just leaned back and said, so, what's this, another ambush? I laughed, but there was no humour in it. It's not an ambush. It's a chance for you to explain yourself before we bring lawyers into it. Claire rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. Oh, please, you're really going to drag your own cousin through the mud over money? James would be disgusted. Emily cut in sharply. Don't you dare invoke Uncle James. He believed in fairness. What Ryan did was the opposite. Ryan finally looked at me. His eyes were hard, but there was something desperate behind them. I told you already. James wanted me to have it. He said it himself. He knew I was drowning. You think any of you would have helped me? No, but James did. My mom's voice was calm, but icy. Do you have proof? Anything in writing? Because the will says the estate was to be divided equally. That's the law. Ryan. Ryan hesitated. That one pause told us everything. He had nothing. Claire jumped in to fill the silence. You were all acting like you robbed a bank. He didn't. He just took what was already his in spirit. He carried the weight of helping James at the end. He was the one at the hospital, not you. That stung. Because it was partly true Ryan had been around more in those final months. But still, that doesn't mean you get to rewrite the will. I shot back. And it doesn't mean you can pocket the money in secret. Emily leaned forward, eyes blazing. This isn't about helping James. This is about Ryan lining his pockets and hoping nobody would notice. Ryan slammed his fist on the table, making Linda flinch. Fine, you want the money? I don't have it anymore. It's gone. Every cent. I paid off debts, loans, credit cards. You can sue me all you want, but you'll be soon a man with nothing left to take. The room went dead quiet. My mom's lips pressed into a thin line. I whispered more to myself than to him. You didn't just steal money. You stole our trust. That's worse. Ryan didn't flinch. He just stared back, empty. That's when Emily leaned toward me and whispered, if he's broke, there's only one person who might have helped him hide what's left. Her eyes shifted toward Aunt Linda. And suddenly, everything clicked in a way that made my blood run cold. The moment Emily whispered that, I felt my stomach drop. Could Aunt Linda really be covering for him? I glanced at her, trying to read her expression. She was sitting stiffly, hands clasped, staring at the floor. But there was a flicker just for a second that told me she was hiding something. I took a deep breath. Linda, is there more to this? Are you protecting Ryan? Her eyes snapped up, wide and panicked. I didn't mean to, I wanted to give him a chance to fix things before everyone turned against him. I thought if I just waited, it would all work out. Emily's voice was sharp as a knife. So you knew he took the inheritance, and you just sat there. You let him run away with it. Linda started shaking her head. I thought he'd pay it back, I swear. I even helped him move some of the funds into a separate account to keep creditors off his back. I didn't want to ruin him completely. I froze. Separate account? My heart started hammering. You mean you're saying there's still money? Linda's lip trembled. I don't know how much is left. I moved it for safekeeping. Emily slammed her palm on the table. We need that account information now. If there's a chance to recover anything from Ryan's theft, we can't let him manipulate us again. Ryan leaned back smugly. See, you can't even trust your own mother. She's been hiding the truth the whole time. I stood up, fist clenched. This isn't about who you can blame, Ryan. It's about fixing what you destroyed. That's your chance to make it right. Claire rolled her eyes. Why are you all acting like children? It's over. The money is gone. Linda, shaking uncontrollably, finally gave in. She pulled out her phone and opened a banking app. There's the account. I can transfer the remaining funds back to the estate, but Ryan, he spent a lot already. There's maybe 20,000 left, that's it. Emily let out a frustrated groan. 20,000? That's a fraction of what he took. I swallowed the bitter feeling rising in my chest. It's something, at least it's not zero. We'll have to take legal action, but this could help offset the rest. Ryan leaned forward, a bitter edge in his voice. I can't believe you're working together against me. Family is supposed to stick together. I looked him dead in the eyes. Family doesn't steal from family, that's the difference. Linda's hands were trembling as she read off the account details. I scribbled them down, already thinking about lawyers and estate papers. This was going to be messy. But at least we had a lead now, and the storm was no longer entirely out of our control. As Ryan and Claire got up to leave, the tension in the room was almost suffocating. No one spoke, no one moved. We all knew the battle wasn't over. But for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope or a chance to reclaim what was stolen and maybe, just maybe, save the remnants of our family from complete destruction. The real war was about to begin. The next few weeks were brutal. The quiet tension from the restaurant in the living room exploded into full-blown chaos as we got lawyers involved. Every call, every email felt like stepping into a minefield. Ryan, of course, claimed he was entitled to everything, insisting that Uncle James had wanted him to have it. Our lawyers were firm unless there was documented proof that claim didn't hold in court. Every family gathering turned into a war zone. Emily refused to speak to Ryan on the phone. My mom's texts to Linda were a mix of pleading and frustration. Even Aunt Linda seemed torn as she hated the idea of seeing her son dragged through legal channels, but she knew she couldn't hide the remaining funds forever. Then came the first court hearing. Ryan showed up with Claire looking polished and determined, like they were walking into a business negotiation rather than a legal fight with blood relatives. I sat in the gallery with Emily and Mom, hearts pounding. The judge asked Ryan why he had taken the inheritance. He repeated his story about Uncle Jane's lost wishes, but the judge wasn't impressed. No written note, no lawyer confirmation, nothing to validate his claim. Our lawyer presented the account Linda had revealed, showing the remaining funds and highlighting how much had already been spent. Ryan's face went pale. I could see the panic rising behind the mask of bravado. He tried to argue that the money was his emergency fund, that he paid off debts for the family, but each word seemed weaker as the evidence stacked up against him. After a tense few minutes, the judge said, "It is clear there was no legal transfer of these funds to Mr. Ryan. The estate will be divided according to the will, and the remaining fund in the separate account will be returned to the estate immediately." I felt Emily grab my hand under the bench. Her grip was tight, almost like she was afraid the moment would slip away if she let go. Outside the courthouse, Ryan stormed toward us, Claire trailing. "This isn't over. You'll regret this," he spat. His voice was low and threatening. I stepped forward, my own anger barely contained. "What we regret is trusting you. What we'll regret is nothing because you stole from all of us, and we made sure justice was served." Linda hung back, her eyes red. She whispered, "I just wanted to protect him." I shook my head. "You protected him at everyone else's expense. That ends now." Over the next few days, the lawyers handled the transfer of funds. Slowly, the estate was returned to the rightful heirs. The money couldn't undo what Ryan had done to the betrayal, the anger, the family rifts, but it was a start. Even now, family gatherings feel different. Ryan isn't part of them. Claire occasionally calls trying to smooth things over, but my mom doesn't answer. Emily refuses outright. And Aunt Linda, she's somewhere in between guilt and relief, still trying to reconcile her love for her son with what he did to all of us. It's strange how betrayal changes people. You think you know someone, your cousin, your own blood, and then everything shifts in a single dinner, a single confession. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. And Ryan? He's out there somewhere, living with the consequences of his choices. We didn't need revenge, the law handled that. But the scars on our family, those are permanent. Months passed after the court case, and life slowly began to settle back into something resembling normal. But the wounds were still raw. Family dinners were quieter, conversations measured, and every mention of Uncle James was loaded with unspoken tension. Ryan had moved away temporarily. He claimed he needed a fresh start. The Claire stayed behind for a few visits before finally leaving too. Aunt Linda was perhaps the hardest to read. She had apologized countless times, privately and in writing, to each of us. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at old photos of the family with tears in her eyes. She knew her attempt to protect Ryan had backfired spectacularly. But she also knew she had to rebuild trust, slowly and carefully. One Saturday, my mom suggested a small gathering at her house, just the immediate family. Emily, Linda, and I were hesitant at first, but we agreed. It wasn't a dinner full of wine and laughter this time, it was coffee, quiet conversations, and reflection. Linda broke the silence first. "I just want you all to know I truly regret not being honest sooner. I thought I was helping Ryan, but I only made things worse. I hope someday you can forgive me." Emily let out a long breath, then said softly, "It's going to take time, Aunt Linda, but seeing you admit it, that's a start." I nodded, feeling the tightness in my chest ease just a little. It wouldn't erase what happened, but it does show that we can try to be honest moving forward. We spent the afternoon going through old family albums, sharing memories, and cautiously laughing at the stories behind them. It felt fragile, like a cracked vase holding water, beautiful, but with visible fractures. Still, there was a sense of relief. The stolen inheritance had caused chaos, but it also forced the family to confront uncomfortable truths. It taught us that love alone isn't always enough. Honesty and accountability mattered just as much. A few weeks later, my mom called to say Ryan had sent a letter. In it, he apologized, long-winded and defensive, yes, but genuine in his regret. He admitted he had let greed and fear control him and recognized the harm he had caused. He didn't ask for forgiveness, but he acknowledged that the trust he had shattered might never return. I read it to Emily and Mom over the phone. There were tears, but they weren't all anger. Some were relief, some were clear. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Even now, the shadow of that restaurant dinner lingers in my memory. I can still hear the clinking of glasses, the heated whispers, and the moment Ryan confessed. But I've learned that families survive even the deepest betrayals as long as the truth comes to light and accountability is faced head on. The inheritance was reclaimed, justice served, and slowly, we began to rebuild what Ryan tried to destroy: trust, honesty, and a sense of family. Some bonds will never be the same, but the cracks have allowed for growth in unexpected ways. Sometimes healing starts with one difficult conversation, one confession, and the courage to face betrayal rather than hide from it. That's exactly what our family did, painfully, but we did it.